Sheriff Ackley's untimely death left more questions than answers, which is precisely why Mr. Sullivan, the director in charge of the terraforming colony on Atuan, called an old high school buddy who just happened to be an admiral in the Terran space fleet, which, in a roundabout way, is how Captain, junior grade, Stuart Flane, commander of the starship Mercury, came to be staring, mouth agape, at the image of Admiral Tawney on the private communications viewer in his quarters.
"Are you okay, son?"
said Tawney, concerned.
"You just turned kind of pale."
Flane snapped his mouth shut with an audible click before responding.
"Would you mind repeating that, if you please, Admiral?"
Flane asked in disbelief.
"It's really quite a simple request, son,"
Tawney replied patiently.
"I want you to go to Atuan. I'll send you the coordinates to help the director there, Jim Sullivan. He's an old friend of mine. To help him dispose of an, allegedly cursed item."
Flane put a guard on his mouth. His mind was raging with all kinds of thoughts, disturbing, angry, outrageous thoughts. He made an effort to calm down before mounting a reply. He began rubbing his temples with his index fingers to help him relax. The last thing he wanted to do was to snap and launch into a tirade starting with,
"Listen here, you flaming hypocrite."
Well, he really wanted to do that, but he didn't want to have to face the somewhat predictable consequences of doing it. Considering Admiral Tawney and other senior officers' reactions to his reports of paranormal activity in recent incidents, Flane considered it a bit of barefaced cheek to now ask him to specifically handle a suspected paranormal problem for them.
"Admiral, sir,"
Flane said deliberately after the rather awkward pause,
"may I point out that for the past several months, I've been all but flayed alive for virtually every incident report I've sent you. You may not believe the things I put in those reports, sir, but they happened all right."
"I get your meaning, son."
Tawney nodded, looking at his subordinate like a sort of fatherly figure would look at his favorite, most beloved son.
"You're thinking I'm being something of a hypocrite, right? But I did say allegedly, didn't I?"
Flane made another effort to contain his frustration.
"Sir,
he stated purposely,
despite attaching scientific data and substantiating evidence of events, even in the form of ship's sensor logs, I've been laughed at, berated, reprimanded, dropped down to the bottom rung of the promotional ladder, if not kicked off it. I've been mocked and ridiculed for reporting accurately and honestly on the unfortunate and very real events that befell my crew. And as for what happened on Floridia 7, let's not even go there. Now, after all that, as a personal favor to a friend, you immediately turn to me the moment you're confronted with a possibly paranormal situation? Doesn't that smell faintly of hypocrisy to you?
"Well, no. In other words, well, yes."
Tawney stammered, nodding and seeming to shake his head at the same time.
"You seem acquainted with this sort of thing. Anyway,"
he smiled,
"the spook squad wasn't available." "Very funny, Admiral."
Flane sighed, watching the smile fade from the Admiral's face. He'd seen those movies too, long ago, and they were every bit as bad and corny as they sounded. He could even hear the theme song playing softly in his memory. Da da dee da, who you gonna get? The spook squad. The reality was nothing like that at all.
"Well, okay then. Send me the gin, and we'll get right on it, sir."
"Thank you, son."
Tawney smiled, actually looking relieved.
"I won't forget this."
As the call ended and the image on his display faded, Captain Flane sincerely hoped so. At any rate, if this little gig indeed featured something supernatural, anything at all, he, Captain Stuart Flane, was going to ensure that the Admiral never, ever forgot it.
Charting the frontier of unknown space was a guaranteed humdrum routine mission, which in the case of the starship Mercury may or may not have been a subtle way to punish Captain Stuart Flane for recently losing 90% of his crew without a satisfactory explanation. It was hard to tell sometimes when it came to discerning Admiral Tawney's motives. The old man was like that, but at least he seemed to have a sense of humor. Flane and the replacement crew of the starship Mercury persevere. They must continue to unflappably unravel whatever mysteries and challenges the universe deigns to throw their way. Even those that might be, well, slightly paranormal by nature. In spite of his true feelings on the subject, Flane must submit honest and accurate mission reports, even if they make his reputation and his sanity look a little shaky. What else was he supposed to do? Lie? Back at Spacefleet HQ, Flane and his ship had come to be viewed with suspicion by those to whom he answered. As a matter of fact, he'd become something of an open joke. Peals of laughter echoed in the halls of power at HQ about the Spacefleet's own Ghostbusters. Flane's pride and his career seemed to be on life support. Even so, Captain Flane, once a dyed-in-the-wool skeptic of all things supernatural, remained hopeful that he could put the events that changed his mind behind him and get back to the ordinary, scientific, no-nonsense business of charting and exploring space. Unfortunately, fate and Admiral Tawney appeared to have other ideas, with dire consequences. Life Signs is Book 2 in the Panic Horror in Space series by South African writer Christina Engela, available now on Amazon as an ebook, paperback, and as an audiobook narrated by Darla Middlebrook.
Inside this metal grave, lost in time and place, feel your heartbeat race.